All right, in this video, we're gonna be talking about how to set clear expectations for both the client and for the videographer so that by the time the project is done, the client feels like you over-delivered, which will then lead them to potentially wanna hire you more or refer you to other people, which will help you land more clients. And setting these expectations will also protect you to make sure that you're having a good working experience, you're getting paid what you agreed upon, and that you're not being taken advantage of. So let's come back into our notes here and discuss a few steps to go through, a few questions to ask to effectively communicate these expectations up front so that everybody wins by the time we're done. So we have our budget set. We've decided on $3,000. We've negotiated that. We're set there. So for that $3,000, what is the client getting and what is expected of the videographer? Okay, first let's talk about deliverables. You need to define what the client is going to get in exchange for that money. We've decided that the client is getting a 2-minute video. With their budget, we were gonna nix the 1-minute video, but I really want this client. I can tell that they're gonna have more work for me in the future. So I'm gonna throw it in as a freebie that I'm gonna go ahead and make a second edit for you and do a 1-minute edit as well. Already we're over delivering and they're like, okay, this is awesome. I'm getting a deal. He told me it was gonna be $3,500 to have 2 edits. He's given me 2 edits for $3,000. Already, I like this guy. I wanna work with him again. Already starting our process of over delivering. Now, this is a great time to specify whether or not the client gets the raw footage. And if they didn't specify that in what they were going to need, this is a good time for you to ask because they may not know they need it until you finish the video. Then they're like, oh, by the way, can we also get the raw footage? So I'd ask this at this point when setting expectations and creating a contract. You say, all right, just so you know, you're getting a 2-minute video and a 1-minute video for $3,000. That's the exchange of goods. I'm gonna ask you this because I get a lot of clients asking me, are you also going to want the raw footage to be able to make your own edits with my footage in the future? If so, that's going to be an extra charge. Let's just say $1,500. If you want the raw footage, it's gonna be an additional $1,500. It's basically as if I'm licensing the footage to you to be able to use for future projects. Now they can reuse the footage you delivered to them in any way they want, but if they want the raw footage to be able to pick and choose from all the raw clips that you took and be able to grade them in any way they want and all that, that's an extra charge. It should be an extra charge. It is something you could throw in for free, but as an industry standard, if you shoot that footage, you own that footage, and if they want ownership to it, they should pay for that. So that should be communicated up front. Set the expectations. Do you want raw footage? Are you gonna want it? If you are, just know it is gonna cost you extra. In this case, I'm like, nah, I don't need it. I just need these videos. If you do good on those, I'm not gonna need any other video content. Okay, great. So deliverables have been defined. We know exactly what needs to be given in exchange for the money. Next thing to talk about is once we know what needs to be delivered, we need to know what needs to be inside of those videos to be delivered. So I always ask my clients at this point, what needs to be included in the video? What product features? What talking points are mandatory? What kind of visuals are mandatory? Are you wanting us to write a script for this? And this is the point where I, as a client, would say, yes, actually, I do want a script and I do want a voiceover to read that script. And I'm like, okay, well, that's good to know. Just so you know, that does cost an extra $300 to have somebody create a script and voice it over, but we're not going to create it from scratch. You have to tell us what things that you want included in that script, and we'll take that list and then fashion together a script. If you can't tell us what you want, then you're going to have to pay us even more to research your business and your industry and your competitors to determine what kinds of things to feature in the video. And that's going to cost even more because basically we're now becoming a marketing agency and not just a video producer. And I recommend not getting caught in that trap of becoming the marketing agency. I always tell them, all right, I need you to send me a bullet point list of everything you expect in the video. If it's not on that list, it won't be in the video. That makes it very clear for them, okay, we better spend a few hours jotting down everything we want included visually, everything that we want talked about, all the product features listed out, everything we want mentioned in the video. We need to make sure we send this guy so that he puts it in the video. Now, once they send that to you, you can obviously give feedback and say, okay, based on the information you gave me, I'd recommend doing this, this, and this. I'd recommend also talking about this. You can bring your expertise to the table and say, well, as a video advertiser, I've seen with past clients that when we have a product like this, it also is good to include this, this, and this. And we'll talk about that in a second. I'm going to show you the list that I make of everything I want included, and then I'm going to show you how I convert that into a script. But moving on to what else the client needs, they need a clear timeline. Let's make this very clear, okay? This is a big way to miss expectations, is if the client was thinking and hoping it would have been done in a week, but they didn't clarify that and set a specific deadline. You thought it should be done in 2 or 3 weeks. You're on different pages. We have different expectations. Client's pissed and you're pissed. And it's a bad relationship. Set these timelines up up front. What's the shooting date? March 25th from 7 to 9. Got it in my calendar. If I'm not there, that's my bad. If the client isn't prepared for me to shoot that day, that's his bad. We already discussed this. Expectations are the same. When's the first cut due? I am actually going to rush this because I need to open this business. So first cut needs to be due March 28th. Okay, so quick turnaround. You got 3 days to bust that edit out. Now this is a big one, guys. Specify the rounds of feedback. Typically, I like to do 1 or 2 rounds of feedback. One major round of feedback, and then usually I'll let them do a second round of feedback if it's just a few minor tweaks here and there. If it's going to take more than 2 rounds of feedback, there was probably some miscommunication on this level of setting expectations, or you just completely botched the project, or the client completely changed their mind on what they wanted from the time you set expectations. Neither of those are okay. Client needs to know that they have to stick to what they originally said were their expectations, and the videographer needs to be able to deliver something close to that. So assuming you've done your job as a videographer to meet those expectations, if they're still wanting more feedback because they're changing their mind on the go, which has happened to me, that's when you say, all right, I feel like I've delivered what you said you wanted, and you're now changing your mind and requiring more work of me. And so I'm going to have to start charging you for new things that you're bringing up now that you didn't bring up in the beginning stages. And I've actually had big clients where the project original budget and expectation was set for around $30,000. As we neared the end of the project, they started asking for all these other things they wanted. They wanted new edits. They wanted different things that they didn't mention before, so they'd have to go reshoot things. Sometimes I've ended up charging an additional 10 grand on a single project because people needed more stuff reshot or re-edited that wasn't initially discussed. So make sure you're able to always go back and say, this isn't what we initially discussed. I've delivered on that. If you're wanting something different and new, it is going to cost you more because I'm going to have to go reshoot that, or I'm going to have to re-edit that according to these new specifications. So don't be afraid to say that, as long as you're meeting expectations that, hey, I'm happy to do more beyond what we discussed and what we agreed upon, but know that it is going to cost you more. And again, I say $200 per extra round of edit. That could just be, you know, a few hours of, oh, they just wanted a different color grade, or they wanted, you know, whatever. That's going to take you a few hours. Okay, well, you know, that's going to cost you a couple $100 extra to kind of change your mind and do something a little bit different. But if it's going to be a reshoot and a completely different whatever, then obviously that price can go up and that has to be negotiated all over again. But most of the time I've found that sticking to 1 to 2 rounds of feedback is usually going to get you through those expectations, as long as those expectations were set clearly. And then obviously we want to discuss the final cut being due. I want these delivered on April 1st. Those are hard dates because I have to launch my business on the 2nd. And if there are hard dates, you absolutely need to make sure to meet those deadlines, even if that means working really fast, really hard hours the 2 or 3 days leading up to that to make sure you hit deadlines. But do not deliver late. That's a great way to spoil a relationship and show that you're unreliable and lose that client from ever hiring you again. Now, this is something we don't talk a lot about in Full-Time Filmmaker, but there are opportunities for you guys to become masters of distribution as well. This is more of what I teach in Course Creator Pro, is my process for marketing and advertising and running social media ads. Creating video is one skill set. Becoming a master at marketing and advertising is another. We're going to cover some of that in this mini course, Commercial Video Pro. Not as in depth as I cover in Course Creator Pro, but the point is you can offer to help people distribute the video, help them set up and run paid advertisements, because at the end of the day, you want them to benefit and actually make more sales, make more money, improve their business from the video that you created for them. Because if it doesn't help their business, they're not going to see the value of that video and they're never going to hire you again. So it's mutually beneficial for you to at least give them tips on distribution, if you have any, on how to make that video most effective in actually achieving the goals that they wanted to with the video. And that's the last thing to talk about with the client expectation that is going to affect the distribution, is what are the goals of the client? What do they want your video to accomplish? Is it to bring in more sales? Is it to bring in brand awareness? Is it to help train their employees? You need to know upfront, before you start a project, what their end goal of the video is. If you don't know the end goal, it's going to be hard to know what you should be doing when you're filming the video to make it effective and worth making in the first place. So absolutely get on board with the client, understanding not only the expectations of what the video should be like, but what the video should accomplish. If the video doesn't help them accomplish what they're wanting the video for in the first place, they're never going to hire you again. They're never going to see the value in video in general, and they're definitely not going to refer you to other businesses. They're going to tell their business buddies, realities. Video doesn't help me. I tried it and it didn't help. And it could have just been because the video didn't have anything to do with their goals that they had in mind about trying to drive sales, because you just made the video about brand awareness and they didn't correlate. And so it just didn't help. So discuss the goals of the client and do everything you can to help them achieve their goals, not just go through the motions of delivering a video. Now, most businesses should have an idea of how to market and distribute their video content. If they don't and they're kind of dodos, which does happen, then you can always offer an extra fee to help distribute the content. You could say, hey, guess what? I also have some experience running some Facebook ads and I've been able to help businesses generate some good ROIs with those videos. So just know that I also charge X amount or X percentage of sales if you do want help running paid advertisements. And again, I'll show you how I end up distributing this video on my social media and run some ads with it and give you some tips there that you may be able to use with clients in the future. So that's it for the client expectations. On the videographer expectation side, we need to discuss payment. I would recommend getting paid half up front and then half within 30 days of completion of the final project. You can decide how you want to get paid, but that's a pretty typical way to do it. You also might want to mention and communicate the expectation that you are the professional videographer, and if also a marketer, a professional marketer and advertiser, and you understand how to best execute this video. So you're asking the client, setting the expectation up front, asking them to give you creative freedom to do what you think is best. Obviously, we're glad to have the client's input, but communicate up front that we would like to have as much creative freedom as possible to do what we think is best, because you are hiring us as the video professionals. And the way that I've been able to help other clients and the videos you've seen of mine in the past, of my demo reel and all that, were done on the basis that I had creative freedom. So I can't promise you that your video will turn out like my other ones unless I'm given creative freedom to do what I think will look best. So that's something that could be communicated up front. Another thing you might want to mention is that you're going to need clear feedback on that first round of feedback on the first cut. Say, don't just give me a few things here and there and then send another cut and then a few more things, another cut and a few more things. I need a list of everything you want changed. Every possible change needs to be in that first feedback on that first cut. And then if I make any further mistakes, you can correct those on the second round, but there shouldn't be a new list of things to correct that you've changed your mind on and said, oh, actually, now that I'm thinking, I want a whole other list of things changed as well. No, I need everything on that first round of feedback that you want changed. If it's not on that first one, I shouldn't be expected to change anything else beyond that unless I haven't correctly changed those things. And then last thing, I personally don't do a very good job at this. When I have bigger clients, they usually create the contracts based on our communications and expectations. And so because most of my clients are bigger and the budgets are really big, 20, 30, 40 grand, the clients really want to protect themselves because they're paying a lot of money. So they're usually generating those contracts. On lower budgets like this, I rarely created contracts and the clients rarely created contracts. And I've only gotten burned once out of hundreds of projects. And so I'm not big on creating contracts on smaller projects, but if you want to protect yourself and be safe as possible, you should create contracts that write out all these expectations that you guys have talked about. Make sure it's in writing so that if you ever need to refer back and say, well, if you want to have 4 more rounds of edits, we talked about this is going to cost extra. You signed on that. And so we need to stick to that agreement. Now, don't get too married to contracts, guys. I talked about this already, but this is the principle of over delivering. If the client is just kind of walking that line, pushing you a little bit farther than the expectations were set at, give them some leeway, over deliver, do more than you thought you would have to maintain a good relationship and to over deliver. But do have boundaries. If they start to take advantage too much, they need to put your foot down and say, no, I have a business to run. I feel like I've delivered everything I was supposed to. If you want more than that, it is going to cost more. But do it all in open conversation, compromise, negotiate. Don't just be a pain to work with and say, nope, this is how I do it. If you don't like it, that's too bad. You guys have to learn to have some people skills and some relationship skills, because those relationships are more important than the few extra dollars you might have saved by not having to do an extra cut. You get the idea. So that's it, guys. That's the importance of setting expectations up front. And like I said, when you set expectations up front and you communicate all of this properly, when you deliver that first cut, it should be pretty close to what they envisioned. There might be a few things here and there, and it should be a quick second cut and you should be done and you can move on to the next project. I think this is something I'm really good at, is communicating clearly and then over delivering for my client, because a lot of my clients are coming back for more videos. And that's a great indication that you have over delivered, is that there aren't a lot of rounds of feedback and that they're coming back for more videos after that. So that's it for setting expectations. In the next video, we're going to be talking about, once you get a list of all the product features and talking points and visuals that your client wants, that bullet point list of things they want in the video, once you get that, how to convert that into a script and shot list that you can then use for when you're shooting shooting on set. But that's it. Moving on now to writing a script.